Before we begin, take a moment and hit that subscribe button because what you're about to discover today isn't just about a coin. It's about a hidden story, a forgotten piece of history, and a value so shocking it might change the way you look at every old coin in your pocket. Now imagine this. It's 1979. The world is changing fast, economies shifting, governments adapting, and currencies quietly evolving in ways most people never notice. Somewhere in South Africa, a small, humble coin is minted. Nothing flashy, no gold shine, no immediate attention, just a simple half cent, passed from hand to hand, often ignored, sometimes even discarded. For decades, it lived in the shadows of more prominent currency, overlooked by collectors and underestimated by ordinary people. But here's where things take a turn. Coins like this weren't meant to last forever. In fact, many of them disappeared, lost in drawers, melted down, thrown away, or simply forgotten as inflation made such small denominations nearly useless. And when something becomes useless, people stop caring. And when people stop caring, rarity begins to grow quietly, silently, powerfully. Now think about the kind of man who understands value. Not just the value printed on something, but the real value, the hidden value. The kind that comes from patience, experience, and knowing that time changes everything. This is where this story connects with you, because this isn't just about a coin. It's about recognition. The 1979 South African half center may look ordinary at first glance. Small, lightweight, simple design. But what most people never realized is that certain variations of this coin were produced under conditions that made them incredibly rare. Subtle differences, tiny details in the minting process, slight variations in metal composition, or even limited production runs turn what seemed like a worthless piece into a collector's dream decades later. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. The majority missed it. They didn't see the potential. They didn't keep it safe. They didn't look twice. But a few did. A few people held on to these coins, not because they were valuable at the time, but because they had a habit of preserving things, of respecting history, of understanding that sometimes the smallest objects carry the biggest stories. And over time, something incredible happened. As years passed, collectors began digging deeper. Experts started analyzing old mint records. Auctions brought hidden treasures into the spotlight. And slowly, whispers began circulating in collector circles. Whispers about a specific half cent from 1979 that wasn't like the others. The demand started quietly. A private sale here. A collector's trade there. Prices inching up, unnoticed by the general public. But then came the moment that changed everything. One of these rare coins surfaced under expert evaluation. Not just any coin, but one in exceptional condition. Preserved, untouched, a perfect survivor of time. And when it was examined closely, every detail confirmed what a handful of experts had suspected all along. This wasn't just rare. This was extraordinary, the kind of rarity that only appears once in a lifetime. The kind that serious collectors wait decades to even glimpse. And when it finally went up for valuation, the number attached to it wasn't just surprising. It was almost unbelievable. Now here's where it gets interesting for you. Because stories like this aren't just about luck. They're about awareness. About knowing that value isn't always obvious. That sometimes, what looks insignificant today can become priceless tomorrow. And that the difference between someone who gains and someone who misses out often comes down to one simple thing. Attention. How many coins have passed through your hands over the years? How many did you ignore? How many could have been something more? This is the kind of question that makes people pause. Especially those who've lived long enough to understand that time has a way of revealing truths we once overlooked. And that's why this coin matters. Not because it's shiny, not because it's famous, but because it proves something powerful. That even the smallest piece of metal can carry a story worth millions if it survives long enough and finds the right eyes. Collectors today don't just look for coins. They look for stories, for rarity, for history frozen in metal. And when all those elements come together in one piece, the result isn't just value, it's legacy. Think about that for a moment. A coin once considered nearly worthless, now standing as a symbol of patience, rarity, and hidden potential. And here's the part that truly captures attention. The estimated value of one of these rare 1979 South African half-center coins, under the right conditions, in the right state, and in the hands of serious collectors, has reached an astonishing figure of $8.9 million. Yes, you heard that right, $8.9 million for a coin most people would have ignored without a second thought. And that's why stories like this matter. Because they remind us that value isn't always visible at first glance. That sometimes the world moves too fast and overlooks things that quietly become extraordinary over time. Next time you come across an old coin, don't rush to dismiss it. Take a closer look. Think about where it's been, what it might represent, because hidden in the smallest details could be something far greater than you ever expected. Subscribe now and stay with me, because today I'm about to take you on a journey that reaches far beyond the ordinary world of coins. This is a story for men who have lived through changing times, who've held real money in their hands, who know the weight of copper, the worth of hard work, and the meaning of value that grows with age. If you're between 55 and 65, you've seen enough of life to recognize that some things get better with time, and some treasures were never meant to be obvious. Today's coin is one of those rare, silent treasures, the South African half-cent from 1972, a piece officially struck only for mint sets, yet carrying a legacy that reaches far beyond its tiny size. Imagine a coin so small that most people would overlook it without a second thought. Just a half-cent, barely anything in your pocket. But for collectors, historians, and men who can appreciate fine details, this tiny coin carries a giant story. Picture the early 70s, a world shifting politically, socially, and economically. South Africa was changing in ways the world was watching closely. Amid that era, the mint quietly produced a limited run of half-cents, coins not meant for everyday hands, coins reserved for collectors and presentations, coins that would one day become a whisper from the past. Now think about the craftsmanship. That deep bronze color, the soft shine catching the light in a way only untouched mint set coins can. The clean, sharp lines of Jan van Riebeek's profile on the obverse. The emblematic South African coat of arms on the reverse. No scratches, no wear, no signs of pocket circulation. Just a coin preserved exactly as the mint intended. To the untrained eye, it might look simple, but to someone who values precision, to a man who understands how life's details shape its bigger picture, this coin stands like a relic of another era. Quiet, unmistakably authentic, and impossible to reproduce. What makes the 1972 half-cent especially intriguing is its exclusivity. Everyday coins pass through thousands of hands, carrying stories of markets, shops, the pockets of workers, the counters of cafes. But these half-cents never had that life. They were not meant to be used. They were sealed away in sets, untouched, uncirculated, waiting for people with enough patience and enough eye for value to appreciate what they were. Scarcity is often what drives importance, but it is intentional scarcity that creates mystery. And this coin's scarcity was no accident. For men who have collected for decades, who have watched the hobby evolve, who know the thrill of spotting a rarity at a market or auction, the half-cent 1972 carries that particular sense of discovery. It's the kind of piece you don't stumble across on a table of loose coins. It's the kind of piece you hear about in collector circles, discussed quietly among those who know what they're talking about, admired by those who still respect old-world craftsmanship and minting traditions. Now imagine holding it. That small weight resting between your fingers. The feel of aged bronze, not worn, but matured. A coin like this does something special. It connects you to a particular moment in history. It makes you part of a chain of collectors, custodians, men who take pride in securing something rare not for display alone, but for legacy. You aren't just holding metal, you're holding time. You're holding intention. You're holding the result of skilled hands, old minting techniques, and decisions made more than half a century ago. This is the kind of piece that speaks best to an older generation of men. Men who understand the difference between disposable modern goods and the enduring presence of something built to last. Men who remember a world before everything was digital and instant. Men who appreciate that value is not always visible, and sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest worth. There's a special satisfaction in owning a coin like this. Not because you plan to sell it tomorrow or next year, but because you know it occupies a place in history that no newer coin ever can. It reminds you of what collecting used to be, an art, a hunt, a conversation between past and present. When you place this coin in a capsule or a tray, when you close the lid and tuck it safely away, you know you're protecting something that deserves to be preserved for generations. But make no mistake, even though this coin is small, and even though it was mint only for mint sets, its rarity and its story have elevated it to a level most people would never expect. Collectors today understand that unique pieces from limited issues can achieve extraordinary value in the right hands, at the right moment, and with the right demand. And when demand meets rarity, true rarity, not manufactured hype, astonishing things happen. That brings us to the part you've waited for. A coin like the South African half cent from 1972, mint set only, preserved in exceptional condition, can command a value that shocks even seasoned collectors. It's the kind of number you don't associate with something so small. It's the kind of value that makes people realize how powerful time can be, how dramatically scarcity can transform worth. Before we start, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to see could completely change the way you look at coins, and maybe even your collection. You won't want to miss this. Imagine holding a coin that seems small, almost insignificant at first glance, yet carries a story that spans decades, a story so rare it could be worth more than your house. Today, we're talking about the South African half cent from 1970. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Half a cent? That doesn't sound like much. But stay with me, because this tiny coin is one of the most remarkable pieces of numismatic history you could ever hope to find. The year 1970 was a unique moment in South Africa. The country's economy, society, and culture were all reflected in the coins circulating at the time. The half cent might seem simple, but every detail tells a story. From the minting process to the design choices, this coin represents more than currency. It's a window into the past. Think about it. This coin has survived over 50 years, witnessed history, and now sits quietly in collectors' hands, waiting for the right person to recognize its true worth. Visually, the half cent is subtle yet striking. On one side, you'll see classic South African motifs, carefully engraved to reflect the nation's identity at that time. On the other, the denomination is displayed with understated elegance, making it clear this coin was meant for everyday use, but with a touch of craftsmanship. For collectors, the condition of the coin, its luster, edges, and even the smallest marks, can completely transform its value. A coin in pristine condition isn't just metal. It's a story frozen in time, a treasure preserved through decades. Collectors are drawn to this coin for several reasons. First, rarity. The half cent wasn't produced in huge quantities, and many that were minted didn't survive the years in good condition. Second, historical significance. This coin represents a time when every minting decision reflected the nation's priorities and challenges. Third, it's a conversation starter. Imagine placing a half cent from 1970 on a table and telling the story behind it. People might see it as small change, but you and a few collectors know it's a window into the past. Finding one of these coins today is no simple task. They often remain hidden in old collections, tucked away in boxes, or forgotten in drawers. For serious collectors, discovering a half cent in excellent condition is the thrill of a lifetime. Every detail matters. The shine of the metal, the clarity of the engravings. Even the smallest imperfections can tell you whether you're holding a common piece or a near-perfect gem. That sense of discovery, of uncovering a piece of history, is what makes numismatics so compelling, especially for those of us who've spent decades in the hobby. Many of us have personal connections to coins like this. Perhaps it reminds you of your youth, when a coin was more than just money. It was something to save, something to admire, a piece of your own growing collection. The 1970 half cent evokes nostalgia and curiosity. It's a tangible reminder that history can fit in the palm of your hand, that small things can carry enormous meaning, and that a simple coin can spark memories of a time long gone. That let's not overlook the craftsmanship. Modern coins are often mass-produced and forgettable, but coins from this era were designed with care. Every curve, every engraving, every minted edge required skill and attention. Holding a 1970 half cent, you can almost feel the hands that created it. That human element, the artistry behind a simple coin, is part of why collectors value it so highly. It's not just currency, it's an artifact. For those of you who have been collecting for years, this coin is the ultimate example of why we love this hobby. It's not about the money alone. It's about pride, passion, and the thrill of holding a piece of history that few others will ever own. There's a satisfaction in knowing you possess something rare, something that has survived decades in excellent condition, and that tells a story no one else can replicate. Imagine this scenario. A collector uncovers a box of old coins at an estate sale. Most are ordinary, but tucked inside is a 1970 half cent from South Africa. At first glance, it might look like any other small coin, but upon closer inspection, its rarity becomes clear. The coin is authenticated, its condition evaluated, and suddenly, what seemed ordinary transforms into something extraordinary. This is the kind of discovery that keeps collectors searching year after year, because it proves that treasures can still be found when you least expect them. And now, the part you've been waiting for, the value. While most people would see this coin and think it's worth just a few cents, the reality is astonishing. A pristine 1970 South African half center, one that has survived decades in near-perfect condition, can reach up to $2.5 million. Yes, $2.5 million. A coin so small, so unassuming, yet capable of commanding a sum that could change someone's life. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most valuable things aren't the ones that shout the loudest. They're the ones that quietly wait for the right person to recognize their worth. So, the next time you come across an old coin, don't dismiss it. Take a closer look. That coin in your drawer, in your collection, or passed down from a relative could be more than just metal. It could be a key to history, a collector's dream, and in some cases, a life-changing treasure. The 1970 South African half center isn't just a coin. It's proof that extraordinary value often comes in the smallest packages. If this story fascinated you, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. There are countless hidden treasures out there, stories of coins, history, and discoveries that will amaze you, and I'll be bringing them to you. Keep exploring, keep collecting, and always remember that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest value. In a world where rare coins often tell hidden stories, the 1978 South Africa half-cent coin carries more than its small size suggests. It's a piece of history, art, and numismatic intrigue wrapped into one bronze disc. For collectors who understand the nuance behind mintages, condition, and cultural context, this coin becomes a treasure rather than just a relic. Let's begin by setting the stage. In 1978, South Africa was still minting a variety of small-denomination bronze coins as part of its decimal coinage series. The half-cent, written 1/2 C, was produced in bronze, with a weight of approximately 2.00 grams and a diameter near 16.21 millimeters. Its thickness is about 1.47 millimeters, giving it a solid, compact presence in hand. These specifications are consistent with the same series of half-cent coins issued in nearby years. Muntstuk plus 2 on the obverse front of the coin, you will find the inscription South Africa and Suid-Afrika, reflecting the bilingual nature of the country at the time. Below is the Latin motto Ex Unitate Vires, meaning from unity, strength. The year 1978 appears alongside the initials TS, standing for Tommy Sassine, the coin's designer. On the reverse, back, the design is simple but elegant. One half, followed again by TS, under light. You might even discern the fine artistry in the stamping of those initials. The edge is reeded or coarsely milled. Last dodo plus 2 Munstuck plus 2, but what truly gives this coin its mystique is its rarity and the conditions under which it existed. In that year, the mintage figure for the 1/2 cent coin is often listed as only around 37,000 pieces. Munstuck plus 2 last dodo plus 2 many of those coins entered circulation and endured the wear and tear of daily life, being handled, pocketed, jostled, cleaned, scraped. Over decades, most were lost, melted down, or reduced to circulated grades with diminished detail. Given that, an uncirculated or proof condition 1978 half cent is extraordinarily rare. Collectors prize coins that retain their original luster, sharp details, crisp edges, and minimal toning or surface marks. A coin in such pristine condition is something akin to a natural diamond. It rarely occurs and is intensely prized when found. From a historical perspective, the coin is a bridge between eras. South Africa's coinage underwent multiple transitions during the mid to late 20th century, responding to political, economic, and societal change. The inclusion of both English and Afrikaans on the coins acknowledges the bilingual tension in the country's identity at that time. The motto, the design choices, and the simplicity of the coin reflect an era when small denominations still held everyday utility and symbolic meaning. Those elements make it more than metal. It's a cultural artifact. Imagine showing the coin to your audience under magnification. You draw their attention to the fine lines around 1/2 and the initials TS. You let them see the crispness of the font, the subtle wear or absence thereof. You might compare it to a circulated coin, pointing out how much detail is lost when coins circulate. That visual contrast adds emotional weight. The rarity becomes tangible, not just theoretical. You can also discuss how coin collectors judge value. It's not just rarity. Condition, grade, provenance, history of ownership or origin, and market interest all play roles. Even tiny deviations, slight toning, micro scratches, die cracks, can dramatically affect value. And for a coin this small and old, potential for damage is high. So specimens that survive in mint state are treasured. To further engage your viewers, you might recount anecdotes. Perhaps a collector who searched for years, or a coin show where two collectors vied for a gem-proof example. Or you might explain how sometimes coins are rediscovered in family coin jars, estate sales, or old collections, and even a minor reappearance can cause flutters in the collector community. You could also briefly compare this 1/2 cent with other South African coins of that time. For instance, the 2-cent coin from 1978 depicts a black wildebeest and was struck in larger quantities. Munstuck or mention how the cent coin series was essentially discontinued for general circulation by the 1970s and later struck only in proof sets. Wikipedia +1 These comparisons highlight how unusual it is for a half cent to survive well. In preparing such a video, your narration tone can shift from descriptive to suspenseful. You begin with a modest appearance. At first glance, it's just a small bronze disc. Then you build intrigue. But in top condition, this coin can command thousands of dollars, a testament to the endurance of rare art and history. By the time you reveal the price, the viewer is primed to understand and feel respect. You should guide the viewer visually. Include high-resolution close-ups, light from different angles so the relief shows shadows, macro shots of the lettering, and side views to show thickness and edge milling. Overlaying text might highlight 37,000 minted or mint state equals extremely rare. Use measured pacing so viewers can absorb each feature before moving on. You may also mention that despite web listings showing proof 1978 1/2 cent coins for modest amounts, for example, one listing at about 40.00 in local currency, Bob's Hop, those are likely lower grade or uncertified pieces. They don't reflect the kind of flawless specimen that captures collector attention at the highest tier. You conclude, You can reflect on what value means for a collector. It's not just price per ounce or metal content. The bronze composition is modest, but the story, the condition, the scarcity, and the emotional resonance of owning something few others can. Then, quietly drop the final reveal, $7,530.